Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review as part of my 31 Horror Movies in May series. So today we're going to take a look at a found footage movie, one of the few that I actually like, because I'm not the biggest found footage fan, if you follow my channel, but there's a handful that I like, and this is one of them, and that is As Above, So Below from 2014. I got the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD combo here. So, yeah, got a couple special features or bonus features inside the movie documentary. Nothing too crazy, but as above, so below. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the setup, the premise, and the cast, and then I'll get into my thoughts and review, which will be spoiler free as much as possible. So, as above, so below is a 2014 American horror film written and directed by John Eric Dowdle, John Eric Dowdle, and co-written by his brother Drew. The title refers to the popular paraphrase of the second verse of the Emerald Tablet. It is presented as found footage of a documentary crew experience exploring the catacombs of Paris and was loosely based on Seven Layers of Hell. The film was produced by Legendary Pictures and distributed by Universal Pictures, making it the first time in Legendary's deal with Universal. So yeah, that's the premise. So basically the film opens. It's a modern day adaptation of Dante's Inferno, basically. Scarlett Marlowe is a young scholar continuing her dead father's search for the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary alchemical alka, alchemical substance discovered by Nicholas Flamel. The stone is capable of turning base metals and gold or silver I'm sorry, the stone is capable of turning base metals into gold or silver and granting eternal life. Scarlet finds the Rose Key artifact in a cave slated for demolition, but after she sees a vision of a hanged man, the demolition begins and she narrowly escapes. Scarlet travels to Paris. She enlists her former lover George and her cameraman Benji. Using codes from the key, they solve a riddle on Flamel's headstone and get the coordinates pointing to the catacombs of Paris. Scarlet tries to reach the location on an official tour, but it is off limits. A stranger tells them of a guide named Papi- Papillon, Papil, Papillion, who will help them if they find him at a nearby party. Scarlet enlists Papillion, his girlfriend Sussex, and friend Zed. I'm probably butchering these names. These names are hard, man. I'm sorry. So Papillion, it's not Susie, Sousie and his friend Zed. That's what we're gonna go with. Damn it. Papillion takes the group to an off-limits entrance. George initially refuses to enter, but when a policeman confronts him, the group escapes into the caves. They encounter singing female cultists, including the woman they saw at the party. As the group crawls through a narrow tunnel, it collapses, trapping them and forcing them onward. The group finds a blocked tunnel, but Papillion explains people who go through that tunnel disappear. His friend Latap, Latapi, i.e., the mole, is among the missing. He tries to make a different path, but the group somehow loops back to the block tunnel, and they decide to break through it. So that's a very long story to get to the premise and the setup in the beginning of this movie. Um, Cast wise, we have Perdita Weeks as Scarlett Marlowe, Ben Feldman as George, Scarlett's ex, Edwin Hodge as Benji, Francois Civil as Papillion, Marion Lambert as Sussex, and Ali Maryar as Zed. And as I said, I apologize if I'm butchering, and I'm sure I am butchering the names, but we're just going to go with it. So yeah, that's the setup, premise, and cast for As Above, So Below, the 2014 found footage horror film. Um, as I said before, I'm not a fan of found footage. I think they've done it way too much over the last 20 years since the Blair Witch Project was a hit. That's one of my. There's about three that I really like. This one, the Blair Witch Project, and Hell House LLC. I think those are the ones that work for me from a found footage standpoint. But there's obviously a hell of a lot more than that. I enjoyed this movie. I know it's kind of a polarizing movie. There's a lot of people that don't like it. They say it's boring. It didn't do it for them. There's cheap jump scares, all those kind of things. I don't know. I didn't see it that way. I actually rather enjoyed this movie. It's one of my favorite found footage movies. So let's just get into it, starting with the pros and starting with that found footage. So I think it actually works well for this type of movie, to be honest with you, as opposed to if it were a regularly shot movie, because of the type of story that it is, but mostly because of the setting that it used and having this group of explorers. I think it actually makes the movie better than it would have been had they shot it conventionally. Um, so this is one of those rare times where found footage I think actually makes the movie better and creepier and more fitting in a lot of ways. So that's my first pro. It's genuinely a creepy movie, especially the third act, the last 20 or 30 minutes of the movie. They really use some effectively scary images and sound techniques. They use sound techniques earlier in the movie too, but in that last 20 to 30 minutes is definitely the creepiest part of the movie. I think universally. I have reasons why earlier in the movie's creepy for me and pretty much all the way through, but we'll get to that. Um, I like the performances in this movie, to be honest with you. I thought everyone did a good job, especially for a found footage movie where some of them are specifically found footage actors. But I didn't find any of the characters annoying. It seemed like everybody was trying and they were coming across pretty well in their performances. They all seemed the biggest thing was they seemed like real people that you might see if you found a videotape of this happening or something with real dialogue and real actions, not like the fake young people we tend to get in a lot of horror movies where they say things that aren't realistic, that people don't talk like that. In this movie, they actually do. I think they actually got that part right. So kudos there. It's a very well paced movie. It's a tight and an efficient 93 minutes, and it delivered with what it was trying to do for the most part in that time frame. If this movie had been 2 hours long, that would have been too long. I think 93 minutes was just right, so I give it credit for the pacing and therefore the directing. I don't really know a lot of other movies that John Eric Dowdle has directed. Dowdle, but he did a good job with this one, I'll say. Um, this movie has a very claustrophobic feel. So even before the real horror begins at the end, the last 20 or 30 minutes, it's a horrific watch all the way through, at least for me. And that's because I don't like small spaces. I don't like claustrophobic small areas or spaces where I can't really move my body. So I was right there with them feeling it. And that was as horrific as what happened in the last 20 minutes of the movie to me. It felt very uncomfortable, especially when they're crawling through these small tunnels, these small holes, through bones earlier. The most horrific scene for me in the entire movie is earlier in the movie when they're just really getting into it and they have to crawl through this pile of bones and this. It's like a slit right above this, basically, that they have to crawl through, and it's just even talking about it now, the hair on my back is standing on edge because, like I said, I'm just one of those people that's very uncomfortable with small spaces. I even have nightmares sometimes about being stuck in like a drain faucet or something, or the a drain of a sink or something, because I just can't move, and it's like. So yeah, that's the reason why this movie probably worked better for me than for other people, because I did find the whole movie very creepy and horrific because of those aspects. I think you really feel this movie. At least I did. I felt like I was right there with them because of those scenes. And I said the one scene is where Benji gets stuck above the bones. It's relatively early in the movie. He's crawling through that space with the bones and gets stuck. His performance was really good. It just seems so real. And then you get the collapses that start happening. It's just very effective for me. I had to stand up during that part. I really did, just so I could move. It has an interesting premise. The idea that as they go deeper into, like, or lower, I should say, but deeper into the ground, facing your own fears, dealing with what you take with you, which that kind of strikes with a certain Yoda phrase from Empire Strikes Back as a Star Wars reference. What's in that cave? Only what you take with you. And it's kind of the same here, done in a more horrific aspect. But it's an interesting premise. The deeper you go, the more of your fears you have to face or what you take with you. So I thought that was interesting. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This movie just worked for me. Those are my pros for it. It's an enjoyable watch. I think because of the pacing, because of the claustrophobic nature of it, especially for me. And then that last half hour, There's a lot of really effective, creepy, and scary images, and it's certainly not a perfect movie. As I'll get into a couple of cons here. Starting with the story, it's not overly developed or overly deep. I mean, basically, you have an explorer that we're introduced to that recruits these other characters to go look for um, something valuable in the Paris catacombs. I mean, it's more of a situational thing. There's not a lot of setup or development with the story. I know at the beginning they tried to show her in a different cave in a different part of the world, which I thought was kind of unnecessary. Frankly, that's kind of a nitpick con, but that really didn't get us anywhere. I didn't think. There's even less character development, especially for those outside of Scarlet and maybe even George to a certain extent. The rest of them were just sort of stock characters. It would have been nice, especially as it relates to what happens in the last 20, 30 minutes as they start to leave the group, shall we say, and the reasons why. If we knew a little bit more about them, we could have had a little bit more attachment to the characters. We just don't have a strong attachment to them because they're just kind of stock characters that are just kind of there. This movie will be kind of a slow burn for a lot of horror fans, especially for those that aren't like me that don't get bothered by the tight spaces and sort of the claustrophobic nature of the catacombs. Most of the horror is going to be in the last 20 minutes of the movie for them, so they're probably the ones that find the first hour of this movie kind of boring. Um, and then the final con that I have is you kind of sort of have to suspend your disbelief with some things that they talk about towards the end when it comes to things on ceiling written on ceilings and certain rooms that they find and mirrors and things like that. Especially towards the end, you just kind of have to go with it. Don't ask any questions because it might make too much sense then, and then the movie doesn't work. So I mean, like I said, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's an enjoyable watch for me and one of the few found footage movies that I think works as a found footage movie, and I actually enjoy pretty well. So I'm going to give this movie, I'm on the verge of 7.5 or 8. I think I'm going to go 7.5 this time because there are those few cons that I mentioned there. Um, but it's close to an 8. 7.5 to 8 is going to be my rating for this as above, so below from 2014. Go ahead and comment down below, guys, if you've seen as above, so below from 2014, the found footage movie. What your thoughts are? Did you like it? Didn't you? Why not? Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my videos for the rest of this series. And please hit the subscribe button down below as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content that I have coming up for the rest of the year and beyond, of course. So thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.